this recording. Okay, Mikey, this will go super smooth. Just talk straight into the camera.
All right.
Can you start off by giving me your name, your grade, and what school you go to?
My name is Michael, or Mikey, as other people call me. I'm a senior, so 12th grade, like going into 12th grade. And I go to school at Alta Vista Innovation.
Cool, perfect. What was your life like growing up?
My life like growing up was, I would say, very few like good memories. Definitely heard my parents fighting 24/7. That was a big thing that went on during my childhood and, throughout the entire time that I was with my parents. But there was definitely some good memories I had, mainly at church too. That's when I was little. That's where I wanted to be 24/7, was just at church and praising God.
Tell me a little bit about your life in high school and what kind of led you to this point of your senior year.
So my life in high school, I started out like I was doing good, and then I just got lazy and didn't turn in work, so I just started failing, and it was like that from my freshman to sophomore year. Then after that, I moved in with my brother and his fiance, and I started going to Alta Vista, the continuation that I'm at now. And I've definitely improved. I went from having all F's and maybe like one C in a class, and to now with straight A's. So, yeah.
Before camp, you weren't attending Sandals Church Youth. What made you want to come to camp this year?
One of my main reasons was to, watch over my little cousin, so I know that he's safe. But another reason was to get that last chance that I had at, being able to try and feel God again. And I definitely, after experiencing last night's sermon, that definitely happened. And I'm honestly glad that I came here. It's life-changing for me in a way, because now I feel like that I need to worship more and praise the Lord.
You mentioned you wanted to feel God again. What has happened in your life to make you believe that you didn't or you couldn't feel God?
My parents' divorce, that was a pretty big bump in the road for me when I was younger. And I didn't understand why it was happening or what the reason for it was. And I started to pray to God to ask them to, just get back together so I can have both my parents again. But that ended up not really happening. So I started to lose a bit of faith and start to question whether or not if God was real or not. And it got worse when I started hitting my teenage years, because I was definitely going through way more emotions and way more experiences at that time, especially with my father. And I prayed for him to help me throughout those situations. And I don't know, some of the prayers that I had prayed for, he never really answered, except for getting me out of the situation with my dad. so that kind of like, it definitely like gave me a bit of faith, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That all sounds very challenging, very difficult. If you don't mind me asking, what were some of your thoughts and feelings when those prayers weren't being answered?
my thoughts and feelings. That was, my thoughts definitely were wondering why I wasn't getting the answers that I was hoping for. And it definitely made me feel like almost like sad, because I felt like I was being lied to by millions of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I'm sorry you've gone through that. Now, you kind of alluded to it earlier. We've been at camp for a few days. You've heard a series of messages. What about last night's message struck home for you?
Definitely the beginning when Pastor Brock was telling that story about Tabitha, her mother, and her stepfather. I had a very similar situation happen to me with my mother and her boyfriend, and what made it so impactful for me was how similar, like almost dead on, of how I lived through what I had to live through. Because in the story, he explains how Tabitha would would see her mother get beat, and then she would get beaten as well by the stepfather. But my situation, it was similar but different at the same time. He wouldn't beat her necessarily. It would just be constant fighting and screaming. And then one night, he actually did hit her, and something in me clicked, and I barged in the room, wondering what had happened, and then he had charged at me, and we had gotten to a fight, and that's what made me able to get out of that situation. I feel like that was one big thing about last night, and especially to know that that was God's way of getting me out of that situation and out of that lifestyle that I had.
How has experiencing God last night in this new way changed how you view yourself?
It definitely changed the way I had felt about myself with my insecurities, and it definitely lifted some anxiety off of my shoulders. Just the feeling that I had last night, it felt amazing. It was undescribable. It was definitely how I said, it was life-changing for me, because I feel like I can view myself more as, like a better looking guy, or like that I'm a good person and I don't have to think about the past 24/7.
What are some of the lies that you were identifying with that you no longer identify because of Jesus?
Some of the lies were, well, there was one specific one. I think it was the it's not my thing, maybe it's theirs. That was, I want to say that was one of my main lies, or the main lie, actually. Because I would see people in the sermons and during praise, like they would put their hands up and everybody else would start to do it. But I felt like if I were to put my hands up, that people would start to make fun of me, or just think that, like, I guess that I was weird, and that was one of my insecurities for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've spent more time with you at camp. Can you share a little bit about how you experienced worship last night in comparison to those lies that you were believing?
Yeah, it was when I'd start to feel the Lord. I'd started feeling a warmth in my body, and it started to, like, I don't know how to phrase it. It started to get warmer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it was amazing. I swear that I had felt somebody's hands pushing my arms up and just keeping them here and holding like my fingertips like this. And like I wasn't moving them at all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it felt like someone had forced me to push them up.
Mm-hmm.
And my arms would just get tired, but they stayed in the same spot the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where in my head it clicked, like, this is the feeling of the Lord's power.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew my mind, for sure.
That's awesome. That bug is getting you. Last question for you. What would you say to a student that is watching this that might be going through the same thing as you? What would you say to encourage them?
I would say to, like, even if you have any insecurities or you have any anxiety about anything, especially in church, or like you think someone will make fun of you for, praising the Lord or anything, don't be afraid, because if you're in church and you see other people praising and, lifting their hands up, I mean, they're there for the same reason that you are,
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed. And if times are rough at home, I feel like it's best to look for the Lord to help you in a situation that you may be in, or like going through, or had gone through. I feel like it'll really help.
Yeah. Cool. This was great, man. Thank you.
Of course.
Cut.